welcome to Daily Politics, reaching you from TrustTV here in Abuja. I am Suleiman. Today we discuss the relationship between governors and their commissioners. The appointment of commissioners and the work that they do all follow the same process as that of a minister in the federal government. So too is the status of the State Executive Council versus the Federal Executive Council, as contained in Nigeria's 1999 Constitution. In other words, a commissioner is the equivalent of a minister at the state level. They are the political heads of the various state ministries. But in recent years, there has been talk about the independence of commissioners. Governors have been accused of treating commissioners like errand boys. Some governors have gone months without appointing any commissioners at all. So today on Daily Politics, we ask, what has changed in the State Executive Council? What has happened to the authority of the commissioners? Are the governors too powerful? And what can we all do about it? Joining me for this discussion are two people who have been there, seen it, and done it all. Hajia Zainab Okino was a commissioner for information in Kogi State in 2014. She's a veteran journalist and currently the chairman editorial board of Blueprint newspaper. Honourable Farouk Yarma is a former commissioner for youth and sports in Gombe State and now a political strategist. Welcome you to Daily Politics.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. But before we go on into the program, into our discussion in full, we'll take a minute as usual to bring you a roundup of politics in the news today. Stay with us.
The Borno chairman of the All Progressives Congress, Honourable Ali Bukar, has described as unfortunate the attacking of Governor Babangida Zulum APC-led administration by the opposition People's Democratic Party in the state over the distribution of 500 million naira for resettlement of internally displaced persons from Maiduguri Bakassi camp to their respective local government areas. The Borno chapter of PDP, through a press statement signed by its publicity secretary, Amos Aziba, had recently questioned the move by the APC. The opposition party also called for probe of the expenditure to see if the amount claimed was really spent. The youth wing of the All Progressive Congress has appealed to aggrieved members of the party to put the party's interests above self in their quest for justice. They urged those who were aggrieved to approach the Senator Abdullahi Adamu-led National Reconciliation Committee instead of resorting to self-help. Deputy National Youth Leader of the APC, Bolaji Rekbete, made the appeal while addressing the media after a meeting of the APC youth leaders and stakeholders in Abuja. The People's Democratic Party (PDP) Anambra State chapter is currently engulfed in crisis over allegations that theft of campaign funds led to the defeat the party suffered in the November 6 governorship election. According to reports, some chieftains of the party in the state have written to the national leadership of the party seeking the constitution of a high-powered investigative panel to review and audit the PDP campaign accounts and activities in the Anambra election. The stakeholders, under the aegis of concerned stakeholders of PDP, is urging the National Working Committee (NWC) of the PDP to, among other things, investigate the truth or otherwise in the allegation that the party's candidate and key members of his campaign team had become richer after the elections.
Welcome back. If you are just joining us, this is Daily Politics on Trust TV. And today, we are focusing on the relationship between governors and commissioners. In fact, on what it means to have a state executive council. So Hajia Zainab, sometimes I start with my right, sometimes with my left. Today, I start with my right. And I think you're also the second lady to be on Trust Politics. So we think that too is history.
Okay.
In its own way. So this idea of commissioners, people, the office, the allure, the recognition that the office used to have, for example, in the Second Republic, and even in the First Republic, although in a totally different constitutional framework. That is now going almost out of the window. People are no longer feeling that there are ministries or there are commissioners even within ministries at the state level. What's going on? What's changing?
I wouldn't know what is changing.
Yes.
I agree with you totally that things have changed. A lot of things have changed. And it's also true that the commissioners we had in the First Republic were truly very powerful, and that's because their schedules were defined and they were allowed to work perhaps by their principals, I mean the governors. But since the coming of this republic, since 2019, that power has been eroded drastically. But maybe because I am not your run-of-the-mill politician, I am a journalist like you, and I was picked from the newsroom.
Yes.
So I didn't see any attraction there. I mean, I didn't serve for long anyway. I didn't see any attraction there. I served for just about a year, 4 or 5 months.
That's a lot.
And I didn't see any attraction there. But I agree with you that commissioners are basically powerless because your power is as good as made by your principal.
Okay.
But I do not agree with you that they are errand boys or girls or men and women. Because this is a power given by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Yes.
That the governors observe it in the breach does not make it right. But it is true that most of them do not have the power that they should have, they should wield, because everything is dictated by the governor.
Okay.
By the governor. So, and you know, these are people representing their various local governments. So when you edge out a particular commissioner, you are indirectly edging out that local government. So I believe that it is wrong of the governors to exercise so much power as against the spirit of and letters of the Constitution.
Thank you, Haja. Honourable Yerma, Haja may not have served for long, but you served for quite a while as commissioner in Gombe State, and you probably have followed the debates around that office. You know that in the federal government, ministers still retain considerable power. They still retain considerable latitude, you know, to drive their ministries, which commissioners at the state level are no longer able to do or to do effectively. Is that the case, and why so?
Well, first and foremost, I would like to thank you most sincerely for giving me this opportunity.
Okay.
And also to make a little correction. I was the first executive chairman of Gombe State Sport Commission.
Okay.
When I was appointed as a commissioner in 2015, I came as a commissioner for youth empowerment. Okay. So the two are different. So sometimes people used to merge them together. And secondly, presently I'm serving as a senior special assistant to the governor of Enugu State on interstate relations.
Okay.
That's just a little correction. And the issue, the topic of discussion about the relationship or the office of the Honorable Commissioner in this democratic setup is really, really unfortunate. As Haja rightly said, there is no any attraction to that office again. Why? Because based on my own experience, I learned that the desperation of the politicians to be in that particular office in times of campaign and what have you, for the governor to be on board as a governor of a particular state, that makes it to be the governor look at that particular office not a serious office.
Okay.
And the technocrats, most of the people appointed as the commissioners, most of them are not technocrats.
Okay.
They are politicians, and most of us has no any alternative. When you accept to serve as the honorable commissioner, you can only go there and not all be answerable to the governor. and you have to do it because you want to remain in the system. Very few of us can be able to say, okay, this thing is not going as I expected, I have to leave so that I can protect my name and my integrity. So the real situation is that the desperation of the politicians to be in that particular office, and the second one, godfatherism. Before you come, you may have your own godfather, that even if you have not performed well at the electioneering campaign, your godfather can be able to recommend you and say, look, I cannot be the commissioner, but I have my son, I have my daughter, I have my godson that I can be able to recommend to you. So when you become as a commissioner at that particular process, the governor will not respect you, will not give you all the necessary support and backing. Once you are loyal as well, and you cannot perform your primary responsibility diligently, it's another issue that the governor will not give you all the necessary tools for you to perform. And it's very, very unfortunate the way things are going, and I think it is not adding any value to the system.
To the system.
Yes, we have to change. The governor has to change, and we, or the commissioners, whoever that have been found himself been appointed as a commissioner, should also know that he is there as a political person, but your primary responsibility is to serve your people and your state. And who has given you a chance to come to serve, definitely you have to do your best, and also to even indirectly, your body language will be able to tell the chief executive, yes, I'm equal to the task.
Thank you. But Hajab, he's brought an interesting dimension to the discussion, that even the people who become commissioners themselves, the problem may not just be the governor, but sometimes even the commissioners themselves, maybe they're not qualified, or maybe they didn't come in through any input that they had made to the system, but because they were recommended by somebody, probably as a favor or as a political debt, settlement of scores and so on. But in the federal civil service, in the federal government, former President Obasanjo once said that, all eyes are focused on him as president, but the things that governors do in the states, he as a president cannot get away with them at all. But governors are able to get away with those things, and nobody cares about it. Is that part of why we're in this situation with the commissioners?
Let us handle the first issue you mentioned about somebody being nominated and as such may not have the requisite skills. That we are nominated is not an issue. By a godfather, I think it's not the main issue. And I do agree with him that most people are there by virtue of the fact of their connection to the powers that be, and not by the fact that they have the competence to be there. But then, once the appointment is made and you are there, you have an opportunity, even if whether you are nominated by a godfather or the governor on his own gives you that recognition, you should know that you are there for a purpose. If you know what you are doing, if you are a bankable staff of wherever you have a second address. Politics is not just your main address. You should be able to prove your mettle. I didn't have any issue with my boss when I was there. As a matter of fact, he reckoned with the fact that I had the competence to do the work. In fact, even after office, each time he sees me, he laments that he was not even able to do anything for me, despite the fact that I came with a blueprint to his office. But that's history now, that's immaterial. I always tell him, don't worry. It's not entirely your fault. There are other issues. So I believe that your competence should show whether you are nominated by a godfather or the governor recognizes you and decides that you should be on his cabinet. But on the issue of Obasanjo, can you remind me?
Yes, exactly? Saying that governors can get away with so many things that even he as president cannot get away with.
I agree with him, but the governors are so powerful, more powerful than the president. if I must say, or to some extent. But that's a topic for another day.
Yes.
The governors we have in Nigeria are so powerful that, because they can, mere frowning their face on being angry with somebody can make their lieutenants or their supporters to kill you. They sign so many, they have the power to give land. The president does not have the power to give land. And so many other things that they do that the president does not have the power to do. But again, like former President Babangida said, we focus on the center only. We do not care about the state. I believe that something needs to be done, and urgently, to salvage this our democratic experiment. Something needs to be done about the power that these governors wield, the power that they have. We need to reduce their power. But then, some of these things are already in the Constitution. What about the commissioner issue that we are talking about? It's a constitutional thing.
It's an office created by the Constitution. It's not dependent on the fame.
Why will the governor now stay for or govern for 2 years without appointing a governor and without appointing commissioners, and nobody can ask him questions? But I think we need to do something, and part of the things we can do is take some of these cases to court. Let's try it. Let's use legal means to sort out some of these things. If we try it in a competent court, and I'm very sure the verdict will be in the favor of whoever tries it, others will take a cue from it. We need to call them to order. Something needs to be done urgently. And that's why all of them want to be governor, because that's where the power lies.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you, Haja. Honourable Farouk, some governors have been said to, undermine or even subordinate the office of a commissioner to that of other appointees of theirs who don't even have any portfolio, maybe special advisors, maybe chief of staff, to the state governor, so that the chief of staff becomes the commissioner of the commissioners. Right. How does that work out, and what are the implications?
Yeah, it's used to happen in some states, as you rightly mentioned. And let me give you a typical example of the governor I served.
Okay.
Ibrahim. He's a former accountant general of the Federation. He's a civil servant to the core. He knows the nitty-gritty of the civil service. And he has that in back of his mind that, yes, if I want to operate as a governor, I have to follow the Constitution. I have to follow the procedure of the civil service most of the time. And it's not every state have that opportunity to have governors on that kind of person. And when he was the governor of Gombe State, I think we get it right. If it is not all right, it's right. He has done his best to see that he give opportunity to almost all of us, those that are serving in the cabinet. And also he encourages us. At times we used to complain. There is a situation that happens. I raised an observation. I asked His Excellency, why are you not, all your projects, you are not commissioning your projects, and most of the time, you are not doing what we expect as a politicians. He said, every commissioner has a role to play. I have my limit. I cannot do everything. That is indirectly in telling us somebody among the commissioners is responsible for doing that. If you cannot do it the way it's supposed to be, nobody will blame. Maybe the governor will look for somebody within his aid and do it right. That's why I'm talking about the competency matters a lot.
Okay.
If people are not competent, they cannot. You cannot give me what you don't have. Even if I appointed you in that particular office, you are not doing the right thing. You are not doing as I expected. Then I have no choice than to go for the person that would do the job.
Thank you.
Let me chip in on what
Please.
you just said about what you just said about other staff appointees of government of doing the work that
commissioners should normally
do. I mean, this is true. Everybody knows that one, and it doesn't. This one is not about the states alone. It includes even the federal government.
Okay.
The late Abakari, may his soul rest in peace, was a very powerful chief of staff who was that minister who could challenge him? I don't know how powerful this one is, but over time, that office has been so dignified that you think
it's subordinate to that of the ministerial office.
Yes, or they are even they serve as the deputies to governors themselves.
Okay.
So in almost every state today, every state you go in Nigeria, and I'm talking in general terms, I'm not particular about any state. Every state you go, there are special people. There are people who are close to their bosses, and one of those is in most cases is chief of staff, and you find some other SAs who are also attached to the governors, and then are also favored. But if you ask me, I would say we should do away with that office of chief of staff.
Altogether. That's interesting.
Altogether, because it's not a constitutional thing. Here's a position that is not even in the constitution, yet it is more powerful than
the one that
at least is mentioned, supported by the constitution.
Thank you. Honourable, this brings us again to that constitutional issue because there is this argument that some commissioners cannot even award a contract beyond 300,000 naira or 200,000 naira, which practically means they have no power. They cannot execute the mandate of their office without the governor saying so. So how does that work out, as against the case with the federal government, where ministers by and large are still able to carry out and execute the policies of their government in their ministries?
Yeah, you are right. If not 100%, maybe I would say 90% of the commissioners in the country cannot give out contract of 1 million naira from their office.
Okay.
Very few, maybe you cannot say 100%. Very few in other states, maybe some of the commissioners can afford to do that. And the bottom line is that everything you are going to do as a commissioner, as you said, is guided by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And the governors...
But what about the practice? That one is the theory, is the law, as written down. What about the practice? Is that...
I have said it before.
Okay.
It's difficult for you to award any contract. And look at what is happening. When a governor came as a governor of a state, in his first term, he used to give opportunity for his commissioners.
Okay.
Most of the commissioners used to have that opportunity for them to bring people closer to them, because time is coming whereby these people are going to be used for a particular purpose. That is the re-election of the second term. In the second term, it used to happen that some commissioners are trying to outshine their masters. So the governors will put a break to them and say, look, these people, if we allow him to continue this way...
He wants to be governor himself.
Yeah, he's going to create problem. Apart from the governor, he wants to be either any of the elected position he wants to contest. But the impression of our governors, they have whatever position at the state level up to the federal level, those are the people that will endorse. Without their endorsement, you won't go anywhere. So the power is animal. They are very powerful. The governors are very powerful. I quite agree with Hajia what she said.
So to what extent the mental and psychological insecurities of the governors contribute to this? Because he has just pointed out that sometimes a commissioner who's open doing will be interpreted as trying to shine, to take even overtake his governor. To what extent does that contribute to the situation where commissioners don't have effective power to execute because they control ministries where governance actually takes place or is expected to take place? So it's an important office one way or another.
Yeah, but I don't think that is the main reason why governors behave the way they do.
Okay.
Otherwise, there can only be a governor. Perhaps in a cabinet, 2-3 people might be ambitious.
Okay.
But what about it? Like you said, what about others? What the governors do is to marginalize almost all the commissioners. Well, there are a few that are quite close to the governors. So, well, maybe to some extent, I know, because everybody knows that the first law of power is never outshine your master.
Absolutely.
I don't think any governor or any commissioner will be so ambitious to show the governor why he or she is staying in office that will want to take over from you. Because in any case, that's another topic entirely. In any case, is it not the governors themselves that choose their successors in Nigeria? It's part of our problem.
Which is part of why we think they're too powerful.
They choose their. So if we show him that you are interested, you might lose out. But for someone like me, I don't want to be governor. If you dash me, I don't even want to be. So
that's all right.
So. But they marginalize almost all the people that are serving under them, not just those who are ambitious. Yeah, there could be one or two people who are not doing the right thing. But that does not take away the fact that they have a constitutional responsibility which is being denied them by their principles.
That's an important point. Thank you. Honourable, also, Haja said that it is possible, that some governors are quite close to the state. Even that too has a pattern. The governors that tend to be close to the commissioners that tend to be close to the governors tend to be those ones where the money is. The commissioner of finance, the commissioner for local government and chieftaincy title because of the joint accounts, Jack, and things like that. And a few other commissioners, works, and maybe information, the ones that represent the face of the government.
Not everywhere.
Okay.
Commissioners of information.
Okay, that one there. Okay, so at least two or three.
I was.
But they have the idea. Okay,
I would say I was powerful because
yes.
I enjoy the confidence of my boss.
Okay.
So to that extent, yes, you can say I was powerful.
It's all right.
But that's where it stopped.
So why are these key offices? Why are they? Does that say anything structural about the type of governance we're having at the local level, at the states level? That commissioners works, commissioners of finance, and then of local government and chieftaincy. These ones are the ones that tend to be
sometimes health,
sometimes
education.
So sometimes education. These ones because of the participation of outsiders, the World Bank and things like that. But largely these three ones. Why is that? Does this say something about governance at the states?
If you look at the manifestos, most of the time of the governors before they come to office as a governors, they used to promise people about roads, water, and water, anything that has to do with to bring so-called to the people. That is why most of these projects executed within that particular ministry that we have mentioned. And once you have projects in your ministry, it will bring you closer to the governor so that you can be able to sit down at times, even after the working hours. You sit down, you go for inspection as a commissioner of works in the night with the governor. So it will bring you more closer to the governor than other commissioners. Like for me, I'm a commissioner of youths. I'm trying to see how am I going to change the life of our youth in Gombe State from the Kalare boys to become a productive life. And my governor has interest so much on that. So I become very close to the governor as well because of the project at hand.
Thank you. When we come back from the break, we will be continuing our discussion on the relationship between commissioners and their governors in the states. I think when we come back, we'll be looking at the institutional dimensions of all this. For example, the state executive council itself, rather than moving beyond the individual commissioners to the state, the SEC, which itself, like the Federal Executive Council, is also a constitutional body recognized in the Constitution. So that's what we're coming next. So if you're just joining us, we'll take a break now. When we return, we will continue our discussion. Please stay with us.
latest updates on current topical issues and breaking news by downloading the TrustTV mobile app on your Android devices. Go online, click Google Play Store, search TrustTV, install the app, and get doses of unfiltered information on happenings all over the world in your pocket. TrustTV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Welcome back. And if you're just joining us, this is Daily Politics on Trust TV. We're discussing the relationship between governors and commissioners. Indeed, the whole idea of the State Executive Council. So, Haji, I start with you again. So maybe I'll be ending with the Honourable for the day. Now, the commissioners are not just recognized individually in the Constitution. They are also recognized collectively as a cabinet, as a council, as a government who are in charge of all the affairs of the state. So to what extent are state, because every Wednesday, there is hardly ever any Wednesday where somebody will say he has not heard something about Federal Executive Council meeting. Even if the president is not there or sick, the Federal Executive Council meeting will hold, and there would be news or some parley with journalists to tell them what the government is thinking. But you hardly hear about this from any states, at least not enough as you might expect from a federation of 36 states. What's going on with the State Executive Council meetings?
Well, to the best of my knowledge, the State Executive Councils of every state hold.
Okay.
To the best of my knowledge. Or it's supposed to hold, let's put it that way. And from my own experience, we were holding it. We looked forward to it because, especially if you have a memo to present to the council. Even if you don't have a memo, you have to contribute one way or the other to whoever else, whichever memo is presented. There are cases where some states don't even hold these meetings.
Yes.
They operate alone. The governors operate alone. I mean, if a state does not have commissioners for 1 year or even almost 2 years,
then what meeting
so
they have?
What are they going to have?
Yes.
It means that he's a lone ranger. He takes decisions alone. So yes, it's supposed to be an institution, and the funny thing about it is that whether the meeting holds or not, whether commissioners are carried along or not, there's this collective responsibility that you have to take. So if a state is in trouble, or for one reason or the governor, a governor of a particular state is being queried, you are liable. You are held liable as commissioner.
Yes.
So how many people are you going to explain to that? Our governor did not even allow us to hold any state executive or executive session, so he was doing things alone. That would be, nobody will even listen to you. And I think he mentioned something at the beginning. It will be expected that you should resign if you are tired. If you cannot take it, you should resign. For one reason or the other, because my tenure was very short, I couldn't contemplate that. But perhaps if I had stayed longer, I would have done that. So, institution or no institution, whether the federal government, whether FEC holds or not, states are not bothered. Those governors are not bothered. They hold it at their behest.
Yes. So is that how things should go? And more importantly, what are the implications for governance at local level? Because all the time we talk about governance at local level, at grassroots level. This one is mainly the responsibility of the states and the local governments within them. But if you are not having meetings with the governor, then what is there governance?
If you can look at this issue, in a situation whereby most of the EFCC cases used to come off immediately after the governor left office because of the certain decision he took. there is some certain decision you must, as a governor, took that decision at the council.
At the council meeting, as a cabinet.
As a cabinet. You take that decision, whatever, if the governor has his own memo, maybe the SSG will present the memo, and the members of the council will endorse, will approve the memo. In a situation whereby the governor will stay like 1 year without this kind of cabinet, and contracts have been awarded, many things have been taking place in the government, financially involved a lot of huge amounts of money. That is a breach of the constitution. That is what affects most of them. As you rightly said, or Ajia said, a competent court of law has to come up with a pronouncement of constituting a state executive council a day or after 1 week of your inauguration.
Not more than a month.
More than a
1
month.
month is a reasonable
What is
time.
very, very important. The powers of the governors is too much. The power, at times they look at themselves as demigod.
Yeah.
They decide to do whatever they and they will go free. So the constitution, it is very, very unfortunate, very, very unfortunate to find yourself in a cabinet that you have an intention to add value to your state, and that opportunity was not given to you.
So, okay, but what about what state assemblies can do in this process? Because they exist to serve as checks on the power of governors in this, exactly in the ways in which the federal executive exists to serve as a check.
Are the members of the Southern Assembly
Ajia first, and then we come to yes.
Don't even go there.
Okay.
That's a topic for another day.
Okay.
Those ones are puppets. They are in the pockets of the governors.
Okay.
Their case ordinarily should not be bad. These are state legislatures that were given the opportunity.
They have some power
to have their own power, their autonomy, and have their first line, so that they can have their everything should be on first line charge.
Yes.
That means their money will come straight from the executive, from the center to them, and they rejected it. Have you forgotten?
I
in this country,
yes,
because governors mobilized against it. So, please don't go there. Those ones. It is whatever that's why we keep saying, and and I'm happy that you brought people who have been there, who have the experience. So we are not just pontificating. We are not talking theory.
Yes.
It's something we know. Because even if you spend 3 months, you will know. So it's something we know. So the state assemblies are not even, those ones are not serious. Is it not the governors themselves that choose them and ensure that they win elections? But there are a few cases where they are allowed to exercise powers. During Obasanjo's time, were some governors not impeached?
They were.
That was when governors were being impeached in this country. By who? Is it not the lawmakers? But do you hear that one now?
No.
That time is gone. In fact, that was a golden era. This is a different era. It's only a foolish governor, in quotes anyway, that will allow himself to be impeached. When he has the power, the financial muscle, to ensure that they close their mouth, they keep their mouth shut. Do you hear anybody talking about impeachment now? It's as if it's not even there. It does not even exist anymore.
Exactly, except the
So
impeachment
when
of
we
the
started,
speakers
that
of
means
the
we
assembly.
actually started well.
Yes.
Along the line, we started derailing. Nobody is talking about impeachment again in this country.
Thank you. It's interesting that you mentioned the first line charge, because maybe when we come to talk about the solutions, how to approach this issue, and of course, some solutions have already been mentioned, such as having a competent court of law interpret that relationship, possibly even best the Supreme Court, so that becomes clear. But maybe also separating the finances of ministries from the governor, or making the finances of the ministries slightly more independent than they are now. Maybe that can help, but we'll come to that. It's like you wanted to react to to this issue?
No, she explained better on the issue of the state, the lawmakers. They have no power to do that.
Okay.
The Constitution has given them the mandate. They've given them the power to checkmate the executives. But it's not all.
So if a governor does not appoint commissioners, they have the right to at least investigate or look into that.
They will not even do that because when there is no commissioners, at times they serve like a commissioner.
They
go
the
to
members
the governor,
themselves.
yes.
Okay.
They will tell him that we are representing the constituency whereby no commissioner. We want this, we want that. And indirectly, even if it is not going to their office because they are legislative, it will go to an office that they may benefit. It's not everybody will be able to do that. The governors, as I told you, they are too powerful.
Thank you. So, okay, yes.
No.
Okay,
Ask your
I was
question.
going to say that maybe is it not possible to have the finances of the ministries, because the ministry at the state level, you also have the state civil service. You have directors in ministries. You have permanent secretaries in ministries. What roles do this play in this whole structure of the state executive? Because the bureaucracy is an important part of the executive at federal or at the state level as well.
Are you talking about the civil service?
The civil service,
The
yes,
civil
like the
service
PAMSEC and
The
so on. Do
PAMSEC.
they also try to usurp the power of the commission because they are more permanent than the other ones? Or
No.
Okay.
From the little knowledge I have about the operations of the state, where there are commissioners, permanent secretaries take the back seat.
Okay.
Whatever you people discuss at your level in the ministry, it's the responsibility of the commissioner to take it to the state executive council meetings.
Okay.
So it is only where there are no commissioners in place and a governor, a particular governor who want to, like, maybe do something about roads or water or health, he will now call the permanent secretary, because, like you said, this is a bureaucracy that has to be followed. So there's no way he alone, the governor alone, can award a contract without bringing in somebody from the ministry, the affected ministry. So that way, where there is no commissioner, the PAMSEC plays that role. But in a situation where once there's a commissioner in place or there are commissioners in place, they work together, or they are expected to work together with their permanent secretaries, and he now has the responsibility to take it beyond the ministry to the executive council meeting, or even directly to the governor, as the case may be.
Thank you. But if the commission, let's say you are PAMSEC, I am commissioner in a given ministry. If you know that your commissioner doesn't have any effective power, either with the governor or at the Federal Executive Council meeting, doesn't that undermine confidence in the ministry downward? Does that not affect governance at that level?
Sometimes I saw a relationship between some permanent secretary as the commissioners. Some of them go in loggerhead.
Okay.
That friction used to arise. And the most important is that retreat. When you come as a commissioner, maybe it's your first time to hold a public office, it's required the state government to organize that retreat that will tell you, this is your boundary, this is where you stop, this is where you start, this is how you going to have your relationship with the permanent secretary, with the directors. When you have that retreat, that is to tell you that the government are trying to prepare you for that particular office.
Interesting.
It's very, very important to be having this kind of retreat so that you can have the tools of how to operate within the ministry. The relationship between the commissioner and the permanent secretary and the civil servant in that particular ministry matters a lot.
Okay.
Matters a lot. When there is no relationship or a sour relationship between the two, definitely it will affect the ministry, and indirectly it will affect you as a commissioner. So it's better to have that cordial relationship. It helps a lot. Okay. Secondly, The issue of the commissioners to be having that, some governors relegated them to the background, is an issue, as I said earlier. One, loyalty. Loyalty, competency, as I mentioned that, and at the same time, you have to push. You can't sit down in your office, okay, I have a memo, I presented the memo to the council, that's where I'll stop.
Okay.
You have to go to extra mile in this setup, which is not supposed to be so. At times, when you finish with that memo at the council, it's left for the ministry to pursue whatever level to do the follow-up. But not at this time. As a commissioner, you have to wake up, you put your file in your armpit. Okay. And be pushing from door to door, which is not supposed to be so.
Supposed to be so. Certainly. Thank you very much, our guest for today. What if, as a way out of this, so okay, we can have the presidential system at the federal level, but there's nothing wrong with a parliamentary system at the state level, so that commissioners come from the legislature, come from members of the state assembly, who have been elected on that, which gives them a lot more clout and a lot more power to even challenge the positions of the governor where that is justified. Would that help, or would that be a way out?
Well, we in the First Republic we practiced parliamentary system. Because Nigeria is a heterogeneous society, people thought, rightly so then, that that's when the democracy was restored in 1979. Yes. People thought that a presidential system will better serve us well. But over the years, especially with the advent of this democratic 1999 years. Over the years, things have not been in good shape.
Okay.
And honestly, if you ask me as an individual, I would say we should jettison this presidential system. Since we cannot have our own homegrown idea as to how we should be run, and we must copy
from different countries.
US today, Britain tomorrow. There are just a few countries in the world that practice presidential system.
Yes.
Yeah. So most is parliamentary.
Yes.
So if this presidential system is not working, there's nothing wrong in tinkering with it. And one of the ways to do so is that, okay, why don't we go back to the parliamentary system? For me, this presidential system is too expensive.
Okay.
It's too expensive. With parliamentary system, at least ministers will be appointed from from among the lawmakers.
Yes.
Already elected. Remember, that's how it works. So that again will reduce
the cost of governance.
Yeah. The other way is to have a unicameral legislature.
Okay.
We do not need all these National Assembly. The money that goes there, the money that sinks there can do so much for Nigeria. So we don't need House of Reps and Senate. Why can't we have one unicameral system? And everybody should have what they are doing. Politics, it should not be a job.
Okay.
A job for anybody. If we are a bankable deputy chairman of editorial board of Trust, and I am a bankable editor and journalist and chairman of Blueprints editorial board.
Yep.
Wherever I go, I will come back.
Yes.
Didn't I come back to my job, as you can see?
Yes.
I came back to my job almost immediately.
Yes.
Because I have a second address.
Yes.
But for those who think politics is all, because they are using it to milk the system, we need to do something about it. There's still no money anymore.
Yes.
Oil is going out of fashion.
Yes.
In the next 20 years, think about this country. If we continue to spend the way we are still spending now, there are no jobs for our children. There's no house you go to that you don't see unemployed youths. So we need to think twice.
That's deep.
We need to revisit what we had before. I know it's not going to be easy because the people who should actually do it are the ones, are the lawmakers themselves. They are enjoying the system. But the people have to stand up to tell them that no, enough is enough.
Enough is enough. So what are the solutions? What can we do about it?
The
Beyond
topic
those
our
things
discussion
so far?
has to do with this, the relationship between the commissioners and right?
Yes, sure. So what can we do
And
about
if you-
it to improve governance at the state level?
For me, I would just say, number one, for instance, if we talk about the commissioners not doing their job, indirectly, we are saying that they are not awarding contracts. They are not doing this in this.
They are not monitoring the contracts. They are not
doing
following things up. Yes.
Yes. Why? I think before we prepared a budget, as I used to see some of the governors, now few governors are doing, they involve the people of the state to come and discuss how are they going to, what do you want in your area? This is what I want. How do you see it? Do you think it is good for your people? Do you think it's good for people of area A or area B? They will discuss, they will sit down, they harmonize their position, and government will have their position as far as budget is concerned. And the commissioner also took part in this type of discussion. The members of the State Assembly do take part in that type of discussion. At the end of the day, they come up with a document that is endorsed by all the stakeholders as a budget document.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, if the State House of Assembly, maybe the governor have presented the budget, then the State House of Assembly passed the budget, that means to tell you that it's a document for all of us.
Yes.
If you are not giving me an opportunity, if you said I'm the commissioner for works and want to have a flyover in certain particular area, and I remind you about that, and this is the time we have to do it, if you say no, then I will say no as well. We must have something doing, as she rightly said. We cannot rely 100% in politics.
Okay.
When we have an alternative, we can be able to look our governors and tell them the truth without any fear. But you have to respect him as want to be loyal.
Yes.
At the same time, this is the way to go.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen and lady, gentlemen, Hajia and Honorable Yarima. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us today. And to our viewers who have stayed all the while with us, this is where we draw a curtain for today's program. We hope that you join us once again tomorrow when we come right here and have yet another edition of Daily Politics with you.